What we really need to do is come over here and check out the seniors we have. We only have 11 seniors, and that is not good. So it says I do need one quarterback, and for that quarterback, I'll probably target a 3-star, maybe a 4-star. It really just depends. I don't want anybody to feel in danger of playing time. Mike Garfield was a 4-star, and he will be our starter. As long as he doesn't have a playing time till breaker, I think it would be worth trying to go after that. As far as running backs go, probably go for one running back. It says I do need a fullback, so I might go after just one fullback, or I might go find a JUCO one and then bring a freshman one along in his place. So there might be two there. As far as wide receivers go, I will only try to target one wide receiver. I will have two leaving this year. Then I have 2 juniors and 3 freshmen, all of which are redshirts. And one of those freshmen, Thad Angel, is going to need to get bumped up into a near starting position, or at least relief time, or he's going to leave because he's suddenly interested in playing time. Looks like it says I need one left guard. And that would be accurate, as we're going to lose Paki Finau this year. Doesn't say I need a center, but my centers aren't very good, so I'm going to try to find a center. And then right guard, it says I need, but I've got a junior, a sophomore, and a freshman. And the sophomore is going to be starting over the junior, so I don't think I really need a guard at this very moment. And then right tackle is clearly inundated with too many freshmen, so I can't bring one of those in at the moment. Left edge, it says I need one. And to be honest, I might chase one, try to find a freshman that doesn't care about playing time, just so that we can have a backup there. Devin Hyde is good, Roland Marsh is good, and TJ Stammer are good, but still growing. As far as right edge goes, I think we're pretty set there, especially with Tim Westbrooks, who was the 5-star gem we brought in. And he should be getting into the rotation here, but I'm probably going to redshirt him, to be honest, and then he will be flying high after that. 3 Mike linebackers, but in reality, since I have 5 and I'm only losing 1 senior, I'm probably just going to go try to find one. And I have a junior and 2 sophomores, so maybe it's worth bringing in a freshman in the next class. Nothing to worry about here with the defensive backs. I might have a couple too many. And then free safety, I need to bring in one at least at the moment. And then strong safety, it says I need one, but I'm not going to worry about strong safety at this very moment. I have Larry Pullman and Henry Tolson. We're both sophomores, so I'm not too worried about them. They should be good to go. And then Joshua Roundtree, so have some work to do on the recruiting board. Let's get to it and see what we can do. So right now, we could probably get Cortez Simmons, since the only other team that will be chasing him will be Notre Dame, who's been our rivals when it's come to trying to track down recruits. They've always been in the same category in Oregon. Rick Frias could be a challenging get if he is the one we try to go after, as well as Everett Spears, but let's just scout them and see what they look like. And he's a 5-star bust, and that kind of hurts, to be honest. He's a 4-star nothing, and he's a 4-star bust. Good lord. That's not good. Well, we could try to track him down. I'll offer him a scholarship, and offer Frias a scholarship, and Everett Spears, we're just going to kick off the board. We will just, I think we're just going to take those 2 off the board. We will see. Actually, you know what? I'm going to leave them there. I can't offer them a scholarship, unfortunately, because they're not interested at the moment, but we'll put them on the board and we will see what happens next week when we sim forward. And there's a 4-star gem. He is immediately getting a scholarship. Now, the real question is, what about the rest of these guys? Now that we're on here, I guess we'll just do this at the moment, and we'll offer them 3 scholarships. And he's a dud. He's a dud. Come on, 4-star, pull through. That's not going to look good because he's probably got the Utah, Oregon, and Texas. Okay, I was worried about having the Utah schools on there. But clearly he does not want to go to Utah. That is some behemoth of a man. Holy cow. And I will also offer one to Garrison Sapp. Okay, 4-star gem. We have only competition against Notre Dame and Oregon. Seems like we're always on the same board as those two schools. There's a 4-star gem out of Nevada. Only having to worry about USC, it looks like. I think this guy is actually probably going to have a decent dev trait. His only downside is his man in zone coverage. If you look at his awareness and his tackle, it's higher than these other ones. His pursuit's even higher. His strength's about the same. Play recognition is about the same. This guy could have a good development trait too. So a 5-star bust, huh? It's the second 5-star bust we've found in this class. Nobody's really interested in Dante Fusco. And he's got, is that gold blow up already? Okay. Maybe it's bronze. Yeah, I think it's bronze because roller coaster is gold there. So yeah, it is. And now to our free safeties. And this should be it on the recruiting class. Oh boy. Let's go check something out here in the upgrade coach skills. Do I have that done on the defensive side of the ball for free safeties? I do not. Okay, it's worth this just to get those unlocked a little bit quicker. Bust. Man, I have found way too many busts in here. Let's be real. I can dig that. We can offer Chad Hyman a scholarship. Only need to worry about Oregon in this battle. But he's got Gold Robber, he's got Legion, Fan Favorite, and Adrenaline. So he'd be a great leader on the defensive side of the ball. Well, how does the board look for you? 2 and 3. Notre Dame and Oregon. Notre Dame and Oregon. Okay, that is just a challenge now, isn't it? And okay, so everybody on our board right now, 1 through 26, has been offered scholarships and scouted except for these 2 running backs. So we'll see how they turn out next week. And the 2 that we do have on our board turn out as well. Okay, so we're playing in our first week against UNLV. And we are welcoming, wow, so that really sucks. So we have no other choice. Well, I'm going to take off FCS. I'm tired of playing an FCS team. We don't need to. We are the Washington Huskies. We don't need to have them on the board. Let's see. Who have the Huskies played before? I'm okay actually putting Stanford on the schedule. That wouldn't be too bad. All things considered, because they were a former Pac-12 foe. And maybe we can get something out of that. We will start the season ranked number 11. Now that we've got all of our recruiting situation handled, it's time to jump over 1 week and see how our recruiting board will shake out. UNLV versus the University of Washington. Upset alert. The afternoon sun beat down on Husky Stadium, but it was the visiting UNLV Rebels who brought the early heat. Washington was officially on upset alert in a grueling back-and-forth battle. Under Jed Fish, a new era was unfolding. Freshman quarterback Mike Garfield was making his very first career start. The second freshman to do so under Fish since Demon Williams transferred in their first season. Pressure of living up to Washington greatness, it weighed heavy, and it showed early. On his very first drive, Garfield and the offense went a cold 3 and out. Garfield returned to the field shaking off those first drive butterflies. Showing newfound composure, he fires to Justice Williams for a quick first down. Then he hooks up with Baron Naoni to cross into Rebel territory. On a crucial 3rd and 2, Garfield goes right back to Naoni to move the chain. Moments later, the freshman unloads the first touchdown pass of his career, finding Amari Rashid to knot the game at 7 apiece. But the Rebels weren't going away. Late in the first, UNLV converts a tight 3rd and 2. Then a massive pass play shreds the Husky secondary down to the 34-yard line. A bruising handoff puts them at the 7. And from there, UNLV's quarterback takes matters into his own hands. Touchdown UNLV. Garfield responded like a veteran, looking entirely comfortable. He layers a beautiful pass just over the linebackers into the arms of Marvin Riggs. The drive stalls in the red zone, forcing a short field goal, 14-10 Rebels. UNLV's offense just kept pushing. UNLV converts on 3rd and 4. The Rebels execute a flawless play. Touchdown just before the halftime whistle. At the break, Washington walks into the locker room staring down an unexpected 21-10 deficit. The Huskies came out of the tunnel with their work cut out for them, and Garfield, he wasn't holding back anymore. He opens the half targeting Rashid out to the 40. Then threads a beauty to Lawson down to the Rebel 32. But on 2nd and 6, the pocket collapses. UNLV's Myron Robinson gets home for a massive timely sack. The drive sputters. Washington settles for another field goal. The Husky defense does its job to keep hope alive. TJ Stammer blows up a play in the backfield to force a 3-and-out. Washington goes right back on the attack. Garfield finds Lawson into Rebel territory. He rolls out away from heavy pressure, tries to make a play on the run, but his pass is picked off. UNLV smelled blood, but Washington's Dominic McCone single-handedly kills the drive with a massive sack. Garfield gets right back to work, hitting Lawson on a clutch 3rd and 4. But again, the offense stalls. Another field goal, 21-16. It was time for the freshman to write his first chapter of Husky lore. On 3rd and 6, Garfield connects with Quid Carr to keep the drive alive. Then, the play of the game, Garfield drops back, scans the field, and uncorked a deep ball to Chris Lawson, who had completely blown past the Rebel secondary. Touchdown, Washington! Going for 2 to secure a 3-point lead, Carr takes the handoff and punches it in. Washington finally leads 24-21. UNLV's next drive came down to inches. Facing 3rd and 1, Washington's Devin Hyde blows through the line for a spectacular tackle for loss. Forced to punt. Trying to run out the clock, a quick moment of freshman inexperience followed when Garfield knelt a bit too early on the final downs, forcing Washington to kick a short field goal to officially end it. The final whistle blows, Washington 27, UNLV 21. It wasn't pretty, and they had to escape a massive home upset. But the Huskies walk away victorious behind a resilient freshman quarterback. Stanford versus Washington. Pacific Northwest afternoon turned into an absolute nightmare for the visiting Stanford Cardinal. The Huskies unleashed a ruthless 4-quarter clinic defined by a merciless defense and another masterful performance from freshman quarterback Mike Garfield. Stanford's afternoon started with a warning shot, a swift 3-and-out. When Washington took over, Garfield immediately showed off that elite poise. Facing an early 3rd and 7, he uncorked a beautiful downfield strike to Chris Lawson, moving the chains all the way to the Stanford 25. The drive stalled, but the Huskies get on the board early, 3-0 Washington. Moving into the second quarter, the Huskies dodged a massive bullet on a near interception. Garfield capitalizes on the momentum, finding Justice Williams, who takes it in the rest of the way into the end zone, 10-0 Huskies. And then, the Washington defense turned this game into a straight-up horror movie for Stanford quarterback Jeremiah Redfield. Redfield struggled mightily all day, finishing with just 15 completions and failing to lead his team to a single touchdown. Down, Caleb Smith blasts through the line, sacks Redfield, and forces the fumble. Earl Hunt pounces on the loose ball at the Stanford 13. With premium field position, Garfield looks at the defense, doesn't like what he sees, and says, "I'll do it myself." He tucks it and forcefully scrambles into the end zone, 17-0. The onslaught was just getting started. Just before the halftime whistle, he finds Marcus Harris for a touchdown strike. We go to the locker rooms with a staggering 31-0 lead. Then came the Quade Carr show. The explosive playmaker ignited the stadium on consecutive plays. First, ripping off a brilliant 20-yard run, and then immediately following it up by hauling in a 27-yard touchdown pass from Garfield. The route was officially on. With the game entirely out of reach, Stanford subbed in their backup quarterback against Washington's reserves in the fourth. A costly penalty gave Stanford new life in the red zone, and they managed to sneak a touchdown pass to their tight end, lowering his shoulder to make it 45-10. Fittingly, the defense got the final word. On the final play of the game, TJ Stammer dropped the quarterback to finish the afternoon with 1.5 sacks. The clock hit zeros on an emphatic 45-10 statement victory for the Washington Huskies. Washington State versus Washington. The Apple Cup. The tension of the Apple Cup always magnifies the stakes. But for the 9th-ranked Huskies, riding a 3-game winning streak, Jed Fish's squad had their sights locked on keeping that coveted trophy right where it belongs, in Seattle. The Huskies set the tone early. Freshman quarterback Mike Garfield kick-started the engine with a 23-yard strike to Baron Naoni. On a tense 4th and 4 across midfield, Fish bets on his offense, and Garfield coolly moves the chains to Marcus Harris. A few snaps later, sitting at the 11, Garfield fakes the handoff, keeps it himself, and cruises into the end zone to draw first blood. 7-0 Washington. But the Cougars punched right back. WSU carves through the secondary with back-to-back explosive aerial strikes, setting up an easy run up the middle to knock the game at 7 apiece. Garfield hits Lawson to move the chains on 3rd down. Then, facing another 3rd down deep in WSU territory, Garfield flirts with absolute danger, uncorking a high-stakes pass to Quade Carr, who hauls it in for a touchdown. 14-7 Huskies. Garfield goes right back to work in the 2-minute drill. Throwing perfectly on the run, he zips a beauty across midfield to Lawson. WSU brings heavy pressure on the next snap, leveling Garfield just as he throws. But the freshman is entirely unfazed. Next play, he drops an absolute dime to Marvin Riggs at the 2-yard line, setting up an easy Ezekiel Hugo touchdown, 21-7. The second half began with more of the same. Ezekiel Hugo ignites the offense with a fierce 13-yard burst up the middle. Moments later, Garfield executes a perfectly timed screen pass to Quade Carr. Carr catches it, finds his wall of blockers, and explodes down the sideline for a spectacular 39-yard house call. The route is officially on in Pullman, 28-7. But just when it looked like the Cougars were dead, they catch the secondary sleeping. On the first play of the fourth quarter, facing a daunting 3rd and 10, a completely busted coverage allows WSU to pull off a shocking 71-yard touchdown pass. Just like that, the lead shrinks to 28-17. The Husky offense retook the field. On a high-pressure 3rd and 3, Garfield calmly fires to Justice Williams for a fresh set of downs. He follows it with another precise strike to Lawson. Then, from the 11-yard line, Garfield drops back and throws the definitive dagger. A beautiful touchdown pass to seal the game, 35-17. Behind a dominant 4-touchdown masterpiece from Mike Garfield, the Huskies extend their winning streak to 4 games and proudly kept the Apple Cup right at home. UCLA versus Washington. The lights of Husky Stadium illuminated a true heavyweight bout on Saturday night as the number 9 Huskies hosted the number 23 UCLA Bruins. What unfolded was an instant classic, a game packed with shifting momentum, a furious fourth-quarter comeback, and double overtime. Washington struck first, leaning on the backfield. Freshman quarterback Mike Garfield orchestrated a smooth opening drive deep inside the Bruin 20. The drive sputters near the goal line, but the Huskies take an early 3-0 lead. That advantage? It was short-lived. UCLA's explosive offense needs just 2 plays to slice through the Husky secondary and strike back with the touchdown. Suddenly, Washington's offensive line begins to leak oil. Heavy pressure from the Bruins results in a massive sack and a quick punt. UCLA picks up right where they left off, marching down the field in just a few plays to find the end zone again. Desperate to answer, the Husky offense finally shows signs of life. Marcus Harris strings together a few fancy moves. Garfield scrambles away from pressure. Ezekiel Hugo finds a seam, bursting down to the 10-yard line. But just as the Huskies seem poised to score, tragedy strikes. Hugo fumbles the ball directly into the end zone. A catastrophic turnover. UCLA capitalizes on the mistake, driving down for a field goal to make it 16-3. Garfield manages to execute a clinical 2-minute drill before the half, moving the chains with precision, but they can't punch it across the goal line. We go to the break with Washington trailing 16-6. The third quarter belonged entirely to Washington. The Huskies execute a methodical masterclass drive that systematically picks apart the Bruin defense. Garfield and Lawson convert crucial third downs, and Hugo gets his redemption with a bruising touchdown run. The deficit is cut 16-13. The Huskies defense simply cannot figure out UCLA's scheme. The Bruins rip off huge chunks of yardage, capping off a rapid response drive with the read option keeper to push the lead right back to 10. Down by 10 in the fourth, it's do or die. Garfield takes the field and puts the team on his back. He breaks tackles on a third down scramble to the 3-yard line, and floats a beautiful screen pass to Hugo for the touchdown, 23-20. The crowd goes into an absolute frenzy as the defense forces a swift 3-and-out. Garfield hits Lawson for a massive gain, but an untimely sack forces a high-pressure 51-yard field goal attempt. The kick is up and it splits the uprights. Tie ball game, 23-23. But UCLA responds with clinical precision. Moving in massive chunks, they chew up the field and punch it in, taking just 48 seconds off the clock. 30-23 Bruins. With precious little time remaining, Mike Garfield takes the field for his definitive freshman moment. He finds Harris for 27 yards. He converts a desperate 4th and 6 to Rashid. Then, with the stadium holding its breath, Garfield floats up a beautiful high arc ball to Chris Lawson in the end zone. Touchdown, Washington! We are tied at 30. Earl Hunt levels the UCLA quarterback on the ensuing snap, and we are headed to overtime. Both teams trade blows and field goals in the first overtime, 33-33. We go to double overtime. The stadium absolutely erupts on the first play as Caleb Smith blasts into the backfield for a thunderous 9-yard sack, but the joy is instantly sucked out of the arena. UCLA converts a miraculous 3rd and long. Moments later, the Bruins quarterback walks untouched into the end zone on a read option, 39-33. Needing a touchdown to survive, Washington's offensive line completely implodes. Back-to-back sacks, including one from former Husky recruit Jamerson Fanene. It all comes down to a catastrophic 4th and 17. Garfield takes the snap, surveys, fires a desperation pass, and it hits the turf. The UCLA bench clears. The Bruins march into Seattle and stun the number 9 Huskies in an absolute thriller. While the loss stung the locker room, help is officially on the way. Watching the Huskies struggle to protect their quarterback all night, 4-star offensive guard legend Drake officially committed to Washington. Drake reportedly told insiders that seeing the offensive line surrender 4 sacks on the evening convinced him that he could walk into Montlake complete for a starting job on day 1. Washington versus Maryland. The Huskies packed up their gear and went on the road, dropping only 5 spots in the national rankings after that heartbreaking double overtime loss to UCLA. Traveling across the country to face the number 21 Maryland Terrapins, Washington knew they were stepping straight into a hornet's nest. Compounding the challenge, Terrapins starting quarterback Malik Washington, a guy who historically seems to play his absolute best football whenever he lines up against the Huskies. This afternoon would be no different. It forced Washington to scrap and claw on a day where freshman quarterback Mike Garfield would turn in his worst statistical performance of the season. Maryland's star quarterback made his intentions clear on the game's opening drive, booming a massive completion down to the 41. He follows it up by threading the needle under heavy pressure. But just as the Terps threaten to break this game wide open, TJ Stammer strikes. A massive 2nd down sack completely stalls the drive, forcing Maryland to settle for 3. The Husky offense didn't take long to answer. Garfield leans on Marcus Harris for back-to-back receptions to cross midfield. Dialing up some creativity, they run a jet touch pass to Justice Williams, who uses his pure speed to crack the red zone. Moments later, Garfield lofts a high ball into the end zone, and Baron Naone climbs the ladder. A spectacular leaping touchdown to claim the lead 7-3. Malik Washington tries to engineer a quick response, but the Huskies defense refuses to break. Caleb Smith blasts through the protection, sacking the quarterback and ripping the ball loose. Maryland manages to recover their own fumble, but the massive loss forces a highly ambitious 54-yard field goal. It squeaks through. 7-6 Huskies. The Huskies look poised to extend the lead. Chris Lawson makes a stunning leaping grab to set Washington up, and then pure heartbreak. Garfield attempts a quick pass to Naone, but the ball ricochets and falls directly into the arms of a Maryland defender. A brutal interception. Maryland immediately seizes the momentum. Malik finds a wide open target down the sideline for a massive 45-yard chunk play, setting up an easy plunge into the end zone. 13-7 Maryland. With only 53 seconds remaining in the half, the Huskies needed a miracle. Enter the 2-minute drill. Facing a daunting 3rd and 9, Garfield drops back, escapes a collapsing pocket, bounces off a defender, and scrambles for a gritty 12-yard pickup. Then a familiar face makes a long-awaited appearance. Audric Harris hauls in the critical pass downfield. Garfield rolls out, throws entirely on the run, and finds Harris again at the 24. Hurrying to the line, Garfield finds a laser to Naone down to the 3. They call their final timeout. Garfield goes for the throat, snapping it and firing a quick strike to Chris Lawson, who secures the touchdown as the clock hits zeros. An absolute masterclass. 14-13 Washington. The third quarter started as a total defensive slugfest, but when the Huskies finally got rolling, Garfield unleashes a high arcing deep ball to Justice Williams. Williams times his jump perfectly, rising above the defensive back to reel in a spectacular grab, 21-13. Then came the play that fundamentally decided the game. For all of his brilliant plays, Malik Washington throws a rare, terribly placed ball directly into the coverage of Joel Leo. Interception, Huskies. Final whistle blows on a gritty road survival. Washington 24, Maryland 19. Wasn't the prettiest half of football, but a win is a win. The coaching staff received some massive news on the recruiting trail immediately following the game. Washington officially secured commits from 2 highly touted prospects, 4-star center Benjamin Henry and 3-star interior offensive guard TJ Gasecki. Washington versus Ohio State. The number 13 Washington Huskies packed up and flew directly into the eye of the storm, invading the legendary raucous Horseshoe in Columbus, Ohio. Waiting for them was an Ohio State squad that, despite a bizarre 2-3 record, boasted a terrifying roster rated at 99 in every category, led by an elite signal caller, Air Nolan. The Buckeyes promised to give Washington everything they could handle. Yet, under the most hostile conditions imaginable, redshirt freshman quarterback Mike Garfield never blinked, displaying pure ice-water veins. He methodically picks apart the elite Buckeye defense from the jump. Fast passes to Chris Lawson and Baron Naone cross midfield. Ezekiel Hugo flashes his speed down the sideline to the 7. And on a high-stakes 4th and goal, Garfield pulls the ball down, tucks it, and sprints past the goal line to shock the stadium. 7-0 Washington. The Buckeyes answer immediately. Air Noland executes a clinical drive, threading a sharp pass to the Husky 32 before firing a touchdown strike to lock things at 7 apiece. Then the momentum completely evaporated. Normally reliable kicker Jamie Getz pulls a 45-yard field goal wide left, and the tailspin begins. On the next sequence, the offensive line collapses, allowing the Buckeyes' pass rush to swallow Garfield for a devastating sack. Forced to punt from deep in their own territory, the Huskies suffered a catastrophic special teams breakdown. A miserable 21-yard punt hands Ohio State the ball at the 46-yard line. The Buckeyes didn't waste the gift. Nolan pitches it to his back, who explodes through a seam and leaves the entire secondary in the dust. On their next drive, Nolan unloads a spectacular deep 37-yard touchdown bomb to push the Buckeye lead to 21-7. The 99 overall juggernaut was officially taking over. Then the game takes a dramatic, chaotic turn. Nolan tucks the ball again, only to be violently sandwiched between two colliding Husky defenders. The bone-crushing hit sends Ohio State's star quarterback straight to the sideline with a significant injury. Entering the fourth quarter, the Huskies were entirely stymied by the Buckeyes' maxed-out defense. Staring down a 14-point deficit, facing an ultimate fourth-down gamble, Garfield stands tall in the pocket and delivers a strike to Marvin Riggs to keep the dream alive. A screen pass to Hugo rumbles all the way down to the 10. On 3rd and goal, Garfield lowers his shoulder, lunges straight into the teeth of the defense, and powers across for his second rushing touchdown. The gap is closed to 21-14, with the clock bleeding away and Washington entirely out of timeouts. Ohio State picks up a first down to seemingly ice the game, but then the Huskies catch a pair of absolute miracles. On back-to-back plays, a pair of Ohio State injuries stopped the clock, acting as proxy timeouts for the desperate Huskies and saving the game clock. Taking over from their own 18 with under a minute 30 left, the freshman quarterback sets up his legacy drive. Garfield drops back and unleashes an absolute moonshot downfield to Baron Naoni, who hauls in the biggest catch of his career, a massive explosion down to the 50-yard line. Garfield scrambles to the 37. It's Justice Williams to the 12. A late sack keeps the clock ticking frantically under 30 seconds. It all comes to 3rd down. Garfield drops back, scans the field, and finds Marcus Harris completely open in the end zone for a touchdown. Staring at a 21-20 scoreboard, Jedfish didn't play for overtime. He went straight for the throat. Garfield takes the snap, zips it to Chris Lawson, and he hauls it in. The 2-point conversion is good, and Washington takes a 22-21 lead. With the horseshoe in an absolute state of shock, Buckeyes' backup quarterback takes the field for one final gasp. On 4th and 6, the desperate pass falls harmlessly incomplete. The Huskies have pulled off a genuine miracle on the road, escaping Columbus with an unforgettable 22-21 victory. The ripples of Washington's monumental road victory were felt instantly on the recruiting trail as 3 elite 4-star prospects officially committed to the Husky program in a massive post-game wave of momentum. Marquise LaRocque, 4-star running back; Martin Barnes, 4-star wide receiver; Greg Hankins, 4-star wide receiver. Washington versus Indiana. For the 3rd consecutive week, the number 11 Huskies packed their bags for a hostile road trip, this time traveling to Bloomington to clash with the Indiana Hoosiers. What awaited them was a brutal defensive slugfest, a game where yards were expensive. The red zone felt like quicksand, and freshman quarterback Mike Garfield would have to navigate a maze of mistakes just to keep Washington's playoff hopes alive. The afternoon started with a clear statement from the Husky defense. Right out of the gate, defensive end Devin Hyde blasts into the backfield for a swift tackle for loss, forcing an immediate 3-and-out. When the offense took the field, Garfield looked a bit rattled, overthrowing his first pass. But he settles down instantly on the next play, zipping a gorgeous 37-yard strike to Justice Williams. With that single completion, the redshirt freshman officially eclipsed 2,000 yards passing on the season. Tight end Baron Naoni rumbles deep inside the red zone, but just as the Huskies knock on the door, disaster strikes. A high-stakes 3rd down, Indiana sniffs out the RPO and picks off Garfield. A heartbreaking turnover. Indiana immediately seizes the momentum, methodically marching all the way to the goal line. Hyde temporarily disrupts the rhythm with a fierce sack, but the Indiana quarterback stands tall in a collapsing pocket on 2nd and goal, buying just enough time to find an open receiver. 7-0 Indiana. Washington's offense tried to punch back. The drive sputters, forcing a short 27-yard field goal. And incredibly, the normally automatic Jamie Getz pushes it wide. Another missed field goal on the season. For the 3rd time today, the drive stalls out inside the red zone. Getz trots out for another shot at redemption and misses again. 3 trips deep inside the Indiana 20-yard line
and the Huskies have absolutely 0 points to show for it. Indiana rides that defensive wave downfield, hitting a late field goal to send Washington into the locker room, staring down a frustrating 10-0 deficit. The second half required a complete culture shift. After a tough third down conversion to Autzen gets them moving, but the drive slows down at the Hoosier 38. Jedd Fisch doesn't hesitate. He calls upon Getz for a massive career-long 56-yard field goal attempt. Bouncing back from his nightmare first half, Getz absolutely crushes it, splitting the uprights to finally get Washington on the board 10-3. The defense fed off that energy. TJ Stammer explodes off the edge for a swift sack. Ezekiel Hugo goes to work, fighting for every single inch on a grueling 10-yard run up the middle. Chris Lawson moves the chains inside the red zone for Washington's 4th trip of the day. And this time, they would not be denied. Garfield finds Marcus Harris in a pocket of space for the game-tying 10-10 touchdown. With their backs against the wall, the Husky defense puts the entire team on their shoulders. Caleb Smith storms into the backfield for a massive third down sack, forcing a punt from Indiana's own end zone. Taking over with short field position, the offense stalls, but Getz drills a high-pressure 50-yard field goal to give Washington its very first lead of the day. Malachi Boone breaks through for a clutch third down sack, forcing a game-tying field goal. 13-13. We are headed to overtime. Washington wins the toss and takes the field first. Garfield drops back and immediately finds Lawson, who makes a phenomenal play all the way to the 3-yard line. On the next play, Jedd Fisch dials up the perfect call. A jet touch pass to Lawson, who sweeps across the formation and glides into the end zone. 20-13 Washington. Now it was up to the defense to seal it. On first down, Caleb Smith entirely overwhelms his blocker, dropping the Hoosier quarterback for a massive loss. It all comes down to a desperate 4th down. The Hoosier quarterback launches a final prayer towards the end zone, but Joel Leo reads it perfectly, rises up and swats it to the turf. The Washington bench clears as the Huskies escape Bloomington with a gritty, hard-fought 20-13 overtime victory. It wasn't pretty and it wasn't easy, but this squad just proved they can win ugly on the road. While the team fought for their lives on the field, the coaching staff pulled off an absolute masterclass on the recruiting trail, landing 3 highly coveted 4-star commitments to build out the future of the roster. Garrison Sapp, 4-star tight end; Abdul Arok, 4-star wide receiver; and Chad Hyman, 4-star free safety, committed to Washington. Number 1 Michigan versus number 11 Washington. After 3 straight grueling weeks on the road, there was no better sight for the Huskies than the glistening waters of Lake Washington and a packed house on Montlake. This was no standard homecoming. This was a monumental top 10 showdown against the number 1 ranked team in the entire nation, the terrifying Michigan Wolverine. Michigan won the toss and did exactly what they do best: suffocated the clock and established a relentless, punishing ground game. The Husky defense, which hadn't struggled against the run all season, found itself consistently knocked off the ball early. The Wolverines methodically converting on a pair of high-stake 4th downs, chewing up over half the clock before capping off an agonizing opening drive with a touchdown pass to their tight end. 7-0 Michigan. Washington tried to fight back, but a costly penalty stalls their momentum. And on a risky 4th down gamble, the Wolverines' defense completely suffocates the play. Michigan wastes absolutely 0 time capitalizing on the turnover on downs, firing a strike near midfield before unleashing a beautiful touchdown throw inside the 10. Just like that, it's 14-0 Wolverines. Staring down a 2-touchdown deficit, redshirt freshman Mike Garfield refused to panic. On the very first play of the ensuing drive, he drops back and unloads an absolute beauty of a deep ball to Chris Lawson. Lawson catches it in stride, hits the turbo button, and outruns the entire Michigan secondary for a breathtaking 85-yard touchdown. Just one play and the Huskies are right back in it, but Michigan answers like champions, executing a clinical 2-minute drill to push the lead right back to 21-7. With time evaporating in the first half, the ferocious Michigan pass rush swallows Garfield for a devastating 9-yard loss. It looked like the half was over. Garfield is an absolute gunslinger. On the very next snap, he drops back, ignores the pressure, and goes right back to his favorite deep threat. Lawson runs a masterful route, evades an aggressive tackle attempt from the defensive back, and blasts down the sideline for another 84-yard touchdown. Are you kidding me? Washington has one final possession with 0 timeouts left. Garfield zips a clutch pass to Naoni, who slides down at the 30 to stop the clock with 2 seconds left. Special teams sprints on the field, and Jamie Getz confidently splits the uprights. A wild, unbelievable sequence brings Husky Stadium completely back to life. At half, it's 21-17, but the second half was a brutal testament to Michigan's depth and physical identity. The Wolverines opened the third quarter by blending a perfectly balanced game that completely neutralized the Husky pass rush, marching down the field for another score. The relentless Wolverine pass rush began teeing off on a trailing Washington team, harassing Garfield into another heavy sack. The Husky defense gave everything they had, but fatigue was clearly a factor. Despite the game slipping away, the Huskies showed incredible grit in front of their home crowd. Wade Carr burst across midfield, and Justice Williams punishes defenders inside the red zone. On 3rd and goal, Garfield shows great anticipation, firing a bullet to George Cuevas for a hard-earned touchdown. Garfield makes his only true mistake on the afternoon, throwing a late interception into heavy coverage that officially seals the victory for the number 1 ranked Wolverines. 40-24 is your final. While it goes down as a loss, the growing pains of our freshman quarterback were on full display today. Time to regroup and get ready for next week. While the battle raged on the field, Montlake secured a historic victory on the recruiting trail. Washington officially locked down 4 massive commitments, highlighted by a crown jewel 5-star quarterback of the future, Cortez Simon, 5-star quarterback, Mike Caroma, 4-star will linebacker, Tyler Beach, 4-star free safety, George Baum, 3-star Sam linebacker. Washington versus Illinois. Back on the road for another grueling Big Ten test, the number 14 Huskies packed up and traveled to Champaign to square off against the Illinois Fighting Illini. What followed was a standard issue, absolute slugfest. A game where points were at a premium, the ground game completely lost its identity, and freshman quarterback Mike Garfield had to navigate heavy pressure and his own late-season struggles to keep Washington alive. The afternoon did not start according to script. Early on, the Husky offense looked sharp, moving the chains effectively. But just as the drive picked up steam, a total misread by Garfield turns into a devastating interception, gifting Illinois the ball right at the 50-yard line. The Illini seize the golden field position immediately. A well-timed screen pass slices the Huskies down to the 23, and operating like clockwork, the Illinois quarterback rolls out and fires a bullet to his tight end in the back of the end zone. The Husky defense was playing a game of 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Caleb Smith breaks through the protection for a massive sack, burying the Illini into a daunting 3rd and 17. But incredibly, the secondary breaks down. Illinois hits a massive conversion down to the Washington 24, followed by a chunk handoff all the way down to the 2-yard line. Their backs completely against the wall, the Husky front 7 put out an absolute clinic. Over 3 consecutive snaps inside the 3-yard line, the front 7 stands like a brick wall, turning away every single Illinois rushing attempt and forcing them to settle for a short field goal. 10-3 Illinois. After another late Getz field goal cuts the deficit to 10-6 at the intermission, Illinois takes the ball to start the second half and methodically grinds deep into Husky territory. The drive looked downright terrifying for Washington fans, until defensive star Dylan Robinson reads the quarterback eyes perfectly. He jumps the route for a magnificent clutch interception in the red zone. Entering the fourth quarter still trailing by 4, the Huskies needed a spark. Garfield finds Lawson on a critical 3rd and 4. Before Baron Naoni snags a beautiful ball down at the 18-yard line. On 1st and goal, Garfield takes the snap and fires to Naoni in the end zone. A flag flies, but it's defensive holding. The touchdown stands. Washington takes its first lead, 13-10. With under 2 minutes left and holding a 3-point lead, Washington faced a crucial 4th and 2 in field goal range. Instead of taking the points to force a touchdown, Fish makes a massive gamble and elects to go for the throw. But the Illinois front 7 guesses correctly, stuffing Hugo at the line of scrimmage for no gain. A massive turnover on downs. Gifted with a final lifeline, the Illini offense executes perfectly. The Illini couldn't punch it into the end zone, but they nail the game-tying kick to send the slugfest into overtime. Illinois takes the ball first in overtime, facing a crucial 3rd and inches to keep their drive alive, the Illinois wideout drops a pass right in his hands, forcing them to settle for 3. The equation for Washington was simple: score a touchdown, win the game, go home. Garfield takes the field with ultimate composure, moving the chains early with a strike to Williams. On 2nd and 6, Garfield drops back, scans the secondary, and finds his ultimate security blanket. Baron Naone secures the ball, and it's a walk-off touchdown. The Huskies survive an absolute nightmare in Champaign, escaping with a gritty, hard-fought 19-16 overtime victory to keep the dream alive. Wisconsin versus Washington. Following a brutal, exhausting game on the road, the number 14 Huskies finally returned home to Montlake, greeting a deafening, sold-out crowd under the lights of Husky Stadium. Awaiting them were the physical Wisconsin Badgers. But the story of the night was the explosive, spectacular resurgence of redshirt freshman quarterback Mike Garfield. Shaking off a rough couple of weeks, Garfield played a nearly flawless game. It was a career-defining performance, and it belonged entirely to the wide receiver Justice Williams, who put on a masterclass. On the very first drive, Garfield locks in on Williams, who hauls in a sharp pass, executes a spectacular juke move that leaves 2 Badger defenders grasping at air and flashes across midfield to set up a 50-yard Jamie Getz field goal, 3-0 Washington. Late in the second quarter, the Huskies' rhythm turned lethal. After a heavy sack backed the offense into a daunting 3rd and 17, Garfield displayed ultimate veteran poise. With a collapsing pocket around him, he executes a spectacular spin move to escape the rush, resets his feet, and launches a beautiful high-stakes pass to Baron Naone to move the chain. Moments later, on 3rd and goal, Garfield fires a laser to wide-open Justice Williams in the end zone to cap the drive, 13-0 Huskies. Wisconsin managed a late scrambling touchdown before the break to make it 13-7. The Huskies answered the bell to start the third quarter. Facing a quick 3rd down, freshman defender Dalton Jamerson breaks completely through the protection to secure his first career sack, stalling Wisconsin's momentum right out of the gate. To defense adjusting, Jedfish sets up the trap. He hands off to Quade Carr for a hard-earned first down up the middle. In the very next play, Garfield fakes the handoff, unleashes a deep post to Williams, who hauls it in and sprints 46 yards into the end zone for his second touchdown of the night, 20-7 Huskies. Just as Husky fans begin to feel the tension creep back into the stadium, the fourth quarter opens with absolute fireworks. Escaping the pocket and throwing on the run, Garfield unleashes a spectacular pinpoint deep ball to a streaking Justice Williams. The star wideout catches it beautifully in stride and clears the secondary for a breathtaking 60-yard touchdown. The stadium is completely rocking. With a gritty 27-21 victory under the primetime lights, the Huskies keep their ultimate dreams alive. A coveted spot in the college football playoff and a legitimate shot at a Big Ten champion. The coaching staff capitalized on the electric primetime environment, securing 2 crucial commitments to bolster the defensive second level. Washington officially signed a pair of highly coveted 3-star will linebackers to anchor the future of the defense: Emmanuel LaForce and Santiago Tancho. Northwestern versus Washington. Under a classic overcast Seattle sky, the number 11 Washington Huskies welcomed the Northwestern Wildcats to Husky Stadium for an absolute physical heavyweight fight. Now, freshman quarterback Mike Garfield had himself a bit of a roller coaster afternoon, but despite the mistakes, the Huskies completely dominated the game script. Forget last year's heart-pounding thriller against the Wildcats. This time, Washington's relentless pass rush and an explosive early offense made sure Northwestern never truly had a chance. The Huskies wasted absolutely 0 time electrifying the home crowd on the opening snap. Garfield drops back and immediately dials up his tight end Baron Naone for a crisp completion to get things moving. In the very next play, Chris Lawson catches a quick screen, slips his defender, and bursts down the sidelines for a massive 31-yard gain. And with that catch, he passes 1,000 receiving yards on the season. 2 plays later, on 3rd and 4, Garfield zips a strike to Justice Williams in the back of the end zone to cap off a flawless opening drive. Just like that, 7-0 Washington. Garfield shrugged off heavy Wildcat pressure. On 3rd down, he fires a bullet to Baron Naone to keep the chains moving. From there, he just methodically distributes the rock, finding Harris, Rashid, and finally, a wide-open Chris Lawson in the end zone, 14-0 Washington. Now let's talk about Washington's defensive line. They completely dictated the terms of engagement all afternoon. Just before the first quarter ends, Malachi Boone and Caleb Smith meet at the quarterback, combining for a thunderous snack. When the offense took over, back-to-back completions to Neone, who finished the day leading the team with 8 catches for over 100 yards, quickly pushed Washington across midfield. Garfield then tries to make a play with his legs, takes a massive hit, and puts the ball on the turf. A terrifying fumble, but luckily, the Huskies pounce on the loose ball to save the possession, allowing Jamie Getz to trot out and drill a comfortable field goal 17-0. To open the second half, Washington wanted to re-establish their physical identity. Williams hauls in a sharp catch, and Ezekiel Hugo follows it up with a physical first down run up the gut. After a sack sets them back, Garfield showcases his athleticism on third down, escaping the pocket and scrambling past the markers. Next play, he keeps it himself again, breaking free on a scramble all the way down to the 8-yard line. From there, Hugo takes the handoff and punches it straight into the end zone, extending the lead to an insurmountable 24-3. The coaching staff continued their steady work on the recruiting trail, securing a valuable commitment to anchor the second level of the future defense. Russ Akbar, 3-star Mike linebacker, commits. Washington versus Oregon. All the hopes, dreams, and postseason stakes of a spectacular season hung in the balance. The assignment? A near impossible task. Travel into hostile Autzen Stadium and take down a 99 overall absolute juggernaut of an Oregon Ducks team, a team that entered the week annihilating opponents by an average of 25.5 points per game. The equation was painfully clear for the number 14 Huskies. Lose, and the college football playoff aspirations evaporate. Win, and we punch our ticket to the dance. What followed was a heavyweight battle for the ages, culminating in a legendary fourth-quarter comeback and a gutsy ice-cold decision that you have to see to believe. Oregon's depth is terrifying. They rolled out a defensive lineup featuring 10 separate star-caliber players. Early on, their defense held, and their explosive offense went right to work. Oregon quarterback Julian Lewis here on the read option breaks containment, sprints down the sideline, and literally has the audacity to flash the ball and taunt our secondary. The defense held them to a field goal there, but the Ducks kept pressing, driving all the way down to the 13. Just as the stadium began to rock, Bob Egan and Earl Hunt swarmed Lewis for a massive third down sack, forcing another field goal, 6-0 Ducks. But knowing we couldn't let this game slip away early, Garfield takes a shot. He unleashes a beautiful deep ball down the boundary. Justice Williams burns his man for a massive gain. A few plays later, a high-stakes 4th and goal, Fish trusts his redshirt freshman. Garfield delivers an absolute laser to Chris Lawson. Touchdown, Huskies! We lead at 7-6. Oregon answers right back to make it 13-7 at half. Coming out of the locker room, we need a spark. We got it right here. Jonathan Epperson reads Lewis's eyes perfectly, undercuts the route, and secures a magnificent interception. But the momentum was short-lived. We stall out and go for it on a crucial 4th and 3, but Oregon's front 7 reads the interior handoff perfectly and stuffs it. No points. That missed opportunity? It completely ignited the Autzen crowd. The Ducks capitalize immediately, orchestrating a flawless drive topped off by a 2-yard touchdown run. Just like that, it's 20-7. The season is flashing before our eyes. Staring down the end of our season, the offense takes the field, facing a daunting 3rd and long. Chris Lawson makes an ultimate alpha play, hauls in the contested catch, and violently shoves his defender out of the way for the first. Brings up another massive 4th down, season on the line. Garfield drops back and executes the play of his life, firing a strike to Marcus Harris, who breaks a tackle and just explodes down the seam 62 yards to the house. The defense feeds off the energy and forces a lightning-fast 3-and-out. Garfield gets the ball back with ultimate composure. Lawson bails him out on a phenomenal grab down to the 15, and on 2nd and goal, Fish dials up a beautiful RPO to Bernaone, who crossed the plane to completely silence the crowd, 21-20 Washington. But the number 4 team in the nation would not go quietly. Oregon answers with a circus catch, a rapid RPO, and a spectacular full extension grab at the 1-yard line to punch it in. They convert the 2-point try, 28-21 Oregon. With only a minute and 30 seconds left. No safety net. On third down, Garfield takes a devastating hit and is forced to the sideline with a sudden injury. Enter backup Marquise Casey, thrust directly into the fire on an astronomical 4th and 10 with the entire season on the line. Talk about ice in your veins. Casey drops back and delivers a clutch, slightly behind throw that Marvin Riggs somehow hauls in at the 49. Casey follows it with a strike to Harris. Mike Garfield is checking back into the game. Racing against the clock, Garfield executes a flawless play-action bootleg, rolls away from the pressure and drops a dime to Harris in the back of the end zone with mere seconds remaining. Instead of playing for the tie on the road against a juggernaut, Fish doesn't hesitate. He holds up 2 fingers. We are going for the win. Garfield takes the snap, surveys the defense, fires a high-stakes bullet into traffic where Justice Williams somehow secures it for a legendary 2-point conversion. Oregon had time for one last desperate heave, but Earl Hunt screams off the edge for a thunderous clock-bleeding sack. As time expires, Julian Lewis's final prayer falls harmlessly to the turf. Against all odds, the Huskies snatch victory away from the depths of defeat, 29-28. The momentum from the historic victory immediately translated to the recruiting trail, with Washington securing a crucial commitment to anchor the back end of their future defense. Danny Hagan's Big Ten Championship, Washington versus Michigan, Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. The stage was set, and the stakes could not have been higher. The Big Ten Championship game delivered what will forever be remembered as one of the greatest, most exhausting conference title bouts in college football history. A heavyweight regular season rematch between the Washington Huskies and the Michigan Wolverines. Look, earlier in the season, Michigan walked right into Husky Stadium and completely handled us. A loss here wouldn't just cost the Huskies a conference trophy, it would be their 3rd loss of the year, likely knocking them out of the college football playoff picture. In a grueling back-and-forth thriller that pushed both teams to their absolute breaking points, Washington wanted to exact the ultimate revenge. Facing a bleak 3rd and 9, Garfield drops back and sees absolutely 0 open targets and calls his own numbers, scrambling into the secondary and getting a friendly downfield push from his linemen to slide past the mark. Ezekiel Hugo keeps the clock bleeding with a physical 9-yard run up the gut. Then, taking a massive hit just as he releases the rock, Garfield delivers a strike to Harris down at the 13. Next snap, a beautiful play-action fake, and Garfield finds Neone crossing in the back of the end zone to retake the lead, 13-10. Michigan responds like the powerhouse they are. The final period quickly becomes the Anthony McGann show. Michigan back completely carries their offense, chewing up massive chunks of yardage to drain the clock before the spin move touchdown puts the Wolverines back on top. But then, a highly questionable coaching decision. Instead of going for 2 to make it a 9-point game and effectively seal the championship, Michigan chooses to kick the extra point. They go up 24-16, leaving the door wide open for a tie. Just over 2 minutes remaining, Mike Garfield stays perfectly cool. Harris moves the chains. Garfield locates Williams for a clutch touchdown to bring us within 2. Championship is on the line. Fish dials up a screen pass to Quade Carr on the 2-point conversion. Carr catches it and executes a spectacular fluid spin move past an oncoming defender and crosses the goal line to tie the game. We are heading to overtime. In the first overtime, Michigan scores a quick touchdown, staring down elimination. Garfield leans on his star pass catcher, finding Neone down to the 5, then hitting him again for a spectacular touchdown to keep us alive, 31-31. Second overtime. The Huskies sputter and settle for a field goal. Michigan drives all the way to the 10-yard line to set up 1st and goal. On 3rd down, their quarterback has seemingly infinite time in the pocket, but the Washington secondary locks down every single option. Rushed by the impending pressure, he sails it out of bounds. Michigan kicks the field goal, 34-all. Triple overtime means a mandatory 2-point shootout. Michigan takes the field first, but the Washington secondary completely blankets the end zone, forcing an incomplete pass to leave the Wolverines empty-handed. The stage is set. A conversion wins the championship. Garfield takes the snap, surveys the field, and hands it off to Ezekiel Hugo, who powers through contact and crosses the goal line to win it. Against all odds in one of the most exhausting conference title bouts ever played, the Huskies exact the ultimate revenge. 36-34 in triple overtime. Washington has officially captured their first ever Big Ten championship. and the playoff run is locked in. The spectacular championship victory officially vaulted the Huskies to number 4 in the national rankings, safely securing a coveted first-round bye in the college football play. The conference honors immediately rolled in for the historic performance. Baron named both Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week and National Offensive Player of the Week after his staggering 10-catch, 139-yard, 2-touchdown masterpiece. James Finley, shrugging off his early missed tackle, was named Big Ten Player of the Week for leading the secondary that choked out Michigan in the overtime. Rose Bowl quarterfinal, Washington versus Ole Miss. The historic Rose Bowl in Pasadena, the grandest stage in all of college football. On this day, it played host to an absolute college football playoff classic. The number 4 Huskies, fresh off an incredible Big Ten title run, lining up against the relentless Ole Miss Rebels squad with a trip to the national championship on the line. Now, this season has been entirely defined by heart-stopping, white-knuckle finishes. But did Washington choose the granddaddy of them all to orchestrate their finest masterpiece yet? The game will tell. Early on, Ole Miss completely set the tone with an infuriatingly clinical brand of offense. Rebel quarterback Tevin Algier operated with surgical precision, executing a grueling 12-play opening drive that completely choked out the first quarter clock. Just paper-cut 5 to 15-yard throws over and over, before Algier caps it himself by scrambling past the edge for a score. 7-0 Rebels. The script didn't change on their next possession. Rapid-fire completions kept our secondary on its heels, but the Husky front 4 finally started getting pressure. Dominic McCone with a violent tackle for loss to disrupt the rhythm. The defense forces a field goal. We're officially staring down a 10-0 hole. Luckily, midway through the second, the offense finally clicks into gear. Chris Lawson ignites the sideline with a tough, chain-moving grab. Ezekiel Hugo follows it up by bursting through the interior line across midfield. The Rebels hold at the goal line, but Jamie Getz chips in a short field goal to get us on the board before break. 10-3 Ole Miss. Whatever adjustments Jed Fish made in that locker room, they worked. The Huskies carried that hard-earned momentum straight out of the tunnel. Hugo moved the chains on the opening snap, and Mike Garfield flashes his athleticism, scrambling deep into Rebel territory. Next play, Baron secures a strike down to the 37, and on a critical 3rd and 5, Garfield reads the safety rotation perfectly, uncorks a beautiful 32-yard touchdown pass to wide-open Amari Rashid to tie the game at 10-all. Defense feeds off the energy and clamps down. On a massive 3rd down, Devin Hyde explodes out of his stance and completely obliterates the pocket and brings Algier down for a thunderous sack. Capitalizing instantly on the stop, Garfield goes right back to work, connecting on a quick, explosive strike to his favorite weapon, Justice Williams, to give Washington its very first lead of the day, 17-10 Huskies. But a spot in this semifinal isn't given away that easily. Ole Miss answers right back in the 4th with a massive 35-yard chunk play down the sideline. Our defense mounts a heroic goal line stand, stopping an Algier quarterback sneak on 3rd and inches. But the Rebels gamble on 4th down and punch it in, and tie it back up at 17. Ole Miss will take over and execute a beautiful play-action pass, outrunning our linebackers directly into the end zone. 24-17 Rebels with almost no time left. Just over a minute remaining in regulation. Our aspirations are literally dangling by a thread. Washington takes over at their own 17-yard line, facing an 83-yard mountain with only one timeout left. The situation was mathematically grim. Garfield hits Lawson for a quick 1st down. Clock keeps bleeding. Carr catches a tough one out of the backfield, and a strike to Rashid forces us to burn our final timeout with less than 30 seconds on the clock. Next snap, Marvin Riggs breaks free, but the pass sails just over his fingertips. 3rd and 5, Garfield scrambles up the middle, but gets swallowed up in bounds. The clock is aggressively ticking down, no timeouts. Game looks completely over, but with zero room for error, Garfield spots a critical breakdown in the Rebel secondary. Justice Williams is left completely uncovered. Takes the snap and fires a legendary ice-cold touchdown pass as the clock hits triple zeros. Unbelievable, the Rose Bowl is going to overtime. In the first overtime, both teams trade blows. Garfield converts a daunting 3rd and 9 with a phenomenal strike to Autzen for touchdown. And Ole Miss answers right back to send us to his second period. Now, second overtime rules mean mandatory 2-point conversions after a touchdown. Ole Miss gets the ball first and manages to find the end zone. But with the entire game hanging in the balance, Washington secondary steps up in ultimate crunch time, completely blanketing the end zone to force an incomplete pass on the mandatory 2-point try. The Rebels leave the door open, up 37-31. A touchdown and a conversion wins the Rose Bowl. Garfield steps onto the field with absolute ice in his veins. Hits Naoni for a first down. Carr fights for 2nd and inches. Then Fish dials up an RPO on 1st and goal, and Garfield executes it flawlessly, holding the ball and firing a bullet to Justice Williams to tie the game at 37. One play for the season. Garfield takes a snap, lobs the ball to Bear Naoni, who secures it and brings it down to activate absolute pandemonium on the field. Against all odds, the Washington Huskies win the Rose Bowl, a 39-37 double overtime thriller. The Huskies are officially punching their ticket to the semifinal game. College football playoff semifinal. Washington versus Oregon. The stage was set for a monumental high-stakes rematch. After an absolute regular season classic down in Eugene, the number 4 Huskies and the Ducks collide once more. This time under the postseason lights of the college football playoff semifinal, with a spot in the national championship game on the line. Now, Washington had already proved that they could slay this green and yellow juggernaut once this year. But in college football, beating an elite, bitter rival twice in a single season is one of the most daunting tasks in all of sports. What unfolded was an absolute heavyweight slugfest defined by explosive big plays, crushing injuries, and a furious defensive stand. Washington opened the game with the football, intent on making an immediate statement. Mike Garfield connects early with Quade Carr on a crisp route to get us to the 30. Then, facing a brutal 3rd down on the boundary, Justice Williams makes a spectacular full extension diving grab, but the refs rule him just mere inches short, and we're forced to punt. Oregon's explosive offense wasted no time, hitting a 32-yard shot down in our territory. But just as it looked like our secondary had no answers, the Ducks execute a series of highly questionable play calls at the goal line. Our front 7 holds strong, forcing a short field goal, 3-0 Oregon. And with our backs completely against the wall, the Husky defense delivers a massive response, forcing a lightning-fast 3-and-out. Garfield stands tall in a collapsing pocket and unleashes a deep ball to Williams, who makes a spectacular leaping grab over 2 defenders. Next snap, Garfield rolls out and steps up beautifully and fires a laser to Chris Lawson in the end zone, 7-3 Huskies. The offense carried that sudden momentum straight into the second quarter. Garfield locks on to Lawson again, down the seam, advancing the ball all the way to the Oregon 16. The Ducks' red zone defense tightens, forcing Jamie Getz to come out and drill a field goal to make it 10-3. But against an offense this explosive, no lead is safe. On the very first play of the ensuing drive, Oregon executes a flawless play-action concept, hitting their wideout in stride for a staggering 79-yard touchdown that instantly ties the game at 10-all. Oregon takes over and executes the 2-minute drill, gashing us on back-to-back bruising carries before punching it in to take a 17-10 lead into the locker room. The Huskies emerge from halftime needing a spark, and the defense delivers with a quick stop. Starting from our own 37, Garfield dials up Marcus Harris for a tough contested catch into Duck territory. On a high-stakes 3rd and 5, Garfield trusts his elite playmaker, throwing a high ball to the boundary where Williams simply outmuscles his defender, reaching completely over the cornerback to secure the rock and tie it at 17. Oregon counters with a methodical, soul-crushing drive of their own to retake the lead, 24-17. Knowing we can't afford to fall behind by 2 scores, Washington responds with the most electric play of the afternoon. Facing heavy pressure, Garfield checks it down to Carr. The dynamic back finds a seam, makes the safety absolutely miss with a devastating cut, It explodes down the sideline for a breathtaking 78-yard house call, tied at 24. As the clock ticks down in the fourth, the entire season begins flashing before our eyes. Oregon is mounting a relentless clock-bleeding drive, systematically moving into field goal range. On third down, the quarterback fires a pass into heavy traffic over the middle. The ball is violently deflected, bobbling through a sea of arms before Josh Soro miraculously tracks it, diving to secure the spectacular season-saving interception. The offense just couldn't capitalize on the miracle turnover. We go 3 and out, handing it right back. With the game on the line, Oregon's ground game suddenly finds answers. They rip off consecutive massive chunks on the ground, leading our final timeouts. On third down, the receiver drops a potential touchdown pass, and Oregon questionably chooses to settle for a field goal. The kick is true, 27-24 Oregon. With only seconds left and zero safety net, Washington takes the field, needing a miracle. Garfield drops back and unleashes one final desperate heave downfield, praying for a historic buzzer-beater completion, but there would be no miracle finish on the side. The ball falls harmlessly to the turf as the final horn sounds. It is a deeply agonizing, heartbreaking end to an otherwise historic, truly magical season, falling at the hands of our bitterest rival.
So Florida International lost to Ole Miss in the opening round. Notre Dame lost to Oregon. Colorado lost to Michigan. And Alabama beat North Carolina. In the quarterfinal, we beat Ole Miss. Oregon beat Auburn. Michigan lost to Georgia. Clemson beat Alabama. In the semifinal, we had that heartbreaking loss to Oregon, and Clemson beat Georgia. We will have to see what the outcome of the national championship was between Clemson and Oregon next week. On the year, Mike Garfield threw for almost 4,900 yards, 42 touchdowns, and only had 8 interceptions. Pretty solid year out of the redshirt freshman. On the wide receiver front, we had 2 wide receivers with over 1,000 yards and 11 touchdowns each, and Baron Naone had 921 yards and 6 touchdowns. On defense, we had 3 defenders with over 100 tackles. Caleb Smith led the team with 7 sacks, and Devin Hyde was just behind with 6 sacks. We had 4 defenders with interceptions, and Jamie Getz had a pretty solid year once again. And looks like Mike Garfield now holds the passing record in a season for the Big Ten. And Clemson beats Oregon. Lane Kiffin, now the coach at Clemson, takes down the Oregon Ducks. Unfortunately, we do have some players transferring out. We were able to keep Justice Williams, Timmy Pryor, and Champ Taulelea. Unfortunately, Baron Naone, Marvin Riggs, and Devin Hyde are all leaving. Cortez Simmons, star development. Marquise LaRoque, elite development. Garrison Sapp, normal. Martin Barnes, elite. Greg Hankins, normal. Abdullah Roque, normal. Legend Drake, impact. TJ Gasecki, star. Benjamin Henry, star. Chad Hyman, normal. Mike Karoma, elite. George Baum, normal. Tyler Beach, normal. Dante Fusco, star. Santiago Tancho, normal. Manuel LaFleurs, impact. Russ Akbar, impact. Danny Hagens, normal. Pat Edmonds, impact. And Courtney Heaps, we will find out in just a moment. Eric Gaynor and Jacob Poff, 2 tight end transfers, and Courtney Heaps is a star. So a pretty solid recruiting class there, finishing at number 9 in the nation. It's pretty solid for us. Mike Garfield got a development trait impact. Nice. Did auto progress on the roster here, and as you can see, quite a few players took a big leap, but Manu Satele took the best one with a plus 11, the sophomore wide receiver out of Seattle. Mike Garfield, unfortunately, only went up plus 2. Wonder if he got some better abilities. And looks like the Huskies are set to go into next season ranked rather high, number 3 in the nation, 97, 99, and 96. Next year could be a special year. But we'll see you in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and take care.